Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 15. The concert turned out to be a much better distraction. My excitement level was much higher even before the opening act took to the stage. The arena was so big, and there were so many people. I'd never experienced anything like it, and being able to share it with a friend made it even better. Erin was as thrilled to be there as I was, and the mood of the crowd was also infectious. Everyone was there to have a good time, and that intensified to near euphoria when Taylor Swift came on stage. The energy was incredible as we sang along to the songs I knew by heart. It was such a rush to hear her sing them in person. But my biggest high came when she sang Shake It Off. I was singing at the top of my lungs and dancing like a maniac. It was absolutely the most fun I had ever had, and I was still fizzing like a soda pop as we walked toward the parking lot. "That was amazing," I gushed. "Thank you so much for inviting me to go with you." "Thank you for coming with me," she replied just as enthusiastically. "I would have hated to miss it, but I wouldn't have come by myself, and all the other girls would have talked about Josh, and I know that I just brought him up myself, but thanks for not mentioning him tonight." I stopped in my tracks as dread replaced my happy mood. "Josh?" I questioned. She halted and turned to look at me in surprise. "You didn't know he was my boyfriend?" "Ex-boyfriend," she amended firmly. The dread turned into a sickening feeling in my stomach. "Josh Connors?" I asked, desperately hoping that she was talking about another Josh. "Yeah," she confirmed, sending me into a tailspin. "I felt so lucky when he asked me out," she added bitterly. "He seemed so perfect, and I couldn't believe he wanted me to be his girlfriend." I looked away from her as terrible guilt overwhelmed me over what I had done with him last night. If only I had known that he was her ex-boyfriend, I never would have started anything with him. I didn't pay attention to who was dating who, though. Except for Mason, my mind supplied derisively. I had always noticed who he was dating. "Why am I even talking about him?" Erin chided herself. "I'm sorry, Ella." She apologized, making me feel even worse. "You don't want to hear me mope over my ex. Forget I ever mentioned him," she said as she resumed walking. I fell into step beside her again. "You can talk about him if you need to," I offered, even as I prayed that she wouldn't. "No," she stated firmly. "He isn't worth another minute of my time. I'm much better off without him." "You are," I confirmed, finding the conviction to speak, even as I felt like a fraud. "He told me that I was nothing without him, and that I'd be shunned by everybody. But Mason made sure that I wasn't. I always thought he was so intimidating, but he was so nice to me. I'm so glad he finally found a nice girlfriend like you." I managed a brief smile at her before lapsing into silence. I wanted to go crawl into a hole somewhere and hide from everything, but I had to pretend like nothing was wrong. Erin bounced back and began talking about the concert. I tried to feign the enthusiasm I had felt only moments before, but Erin noticed my change in mood. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," I lied. "I'm just tired. I guess all that singing and dancing wore me out." "Yeah," she agreed, believing my explanation. "Can you imagine what it's like for the singers and the bands? I bet it's exhausting sometimes." "Yeah," I acknowledged, wondering how they performed when they were dealing with emotional devastation. I could barely muster up enough energy for a conversation. Somehow, I managed to make it through without falling apart, even when Erin thanked me again for going with her and happily suggested that we should both wear the concert shirts we had bought to school on Monday. Fortunately, I had driven her to the concert, so I got to drop the act after dropping her off at home. I drove myself home in a stupor, too weary from my huge mood swing to even think anymore. I wanted to block it all out anyway and sink into the oblivion of sleep. I would have to deal with it eventually, but I couldn't face it right now. Parking the car in the driveway so that I wouldn't wake anyone with the sound of the garage door opening and closing, I slowly began to trudge toward the house. "Ella," a male voice called out to me in a hushed tone. I turned and saw Mason approaching me. "Hey," he greeted me. "How was the concert?" "Good," I replied. "What's wrong?" he questioned in sudden concern. "What happened?" "Nothing," I answered, still unable to find any energy to liven up my voice. "Just tired." He scrutinized me in the dim light, but my expression was probably as empty as I felt. "Night," I said, and turned back toward the house. "What's wrong with you?" he demanded, stepping in front of me to halt my progress again. "You didn't even ask me why I'm here. Why are you acting like somebody died? What the hell happened?" I was too despondent to even try to make another attempt to convince him that nothing was wrong. "I have to go to bed now." All I craved was to collapse on it. "Hey," he said, and gently cupped my face to tilt my chin up. "Ella, talk to me." His tender touch cracked the shell encasing me from my feelings. "Please," I pleaded. He slowly dropped his hand and let me pass. With a heavy heart, I resumed my melancholy walk into my house without looking back at him. When I got up to my room, I collapsed hopelessly on my bed without bothering to remove my clothes. I wasn't sure how long I stared blankly into the darkness before my eyelids closed in the oblivion I sought.